Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, La Crescenta, where it's our dream to help you build and manifest your dream. We are so blessed to have with us today on the platform Reverend Mary Morgan, who is a staff minister at CSL Redondo Beach. Also, I want to thank you for your tithes and offerings. Most of you got a letter last week about our challenges, about our projects that amount to quite a bit of money, and I'm hoping and praying you can find it in your heart to add just a little bit extra this coming week.
Good morning, everyone. Today is our affirmative prayer, so I invite you to join with me as we know together that there is one power, and that power is God. It is the very essence of my being. And as I know this prayer in the first person, I know for each and every one of us, we are one with this Spirit, with this divine essence that we refer to as the creative intelligence, that presence of God. And so I know today that all is well, that the sense of perfection of being that I have with God as God expressing through me is happening right here and now. So I choose right now to release anything that might be stopping or blocking my good from showing up, my light from emanating from me, my peace of mind. And I know the truth of my being as I walk through this day, confident and aware that God is and I am. Such a powerful statement. Let's say it again. God is and I am. And what we know when we say that is that anything that might be in my path is removed as I am guided, directed, and protected every step of my way to know and express and experience the good in life. And so with that, I release this prayer into the law of mind, knowing that it is always answered, as I give thanks for my many, many blessings, aware that I am so blessed, and so it is.
Please join me in singing, "And So It Is." God is all there is. I am one with the Spirit. I realize the truth, and I speak it. I am thankful for it all. I release it, I let it go, and so it is, and so it is. I know it is, and I receive as I believe. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Good morning. Today is the reading from our Science of Mind textbook, and we will be sharing page 303, paragraphs 2, 3, and 4. When Jesus said, "Resist not," he meant that non-recognition of evil is the only way to avoid it. This is true according to the law of cause and effect. For what we persist in recognizing, we persist in holding in place. That which we refuse to recognize, we neutralize, and it is no longer there as far as we are concerned. So we erase any idea of failure. Now here is where it looks as though one might not be telling the truth to himself, but he is declaring the truth about the Spirit that indwells him. This Spirit never fails. Affirm this until it is a very part of your being. This word blots out from the book of my remembrance any sense of lack, limitation, want, or fear of failure. There is no failure, no person to fail. Failure is neither person, place, or thing. It is a false thought and has no truth in it. It is a belief in lack, and there is no lack. It is a belief in limitation, which does not exist. Your word, which is one with the infinite life, has been spoken in calm trust. It will be taken up at once, and it will be operated on. Perfect is the pattern, and perfect will be the result. Your word is now establishing it forever. See this, feel it, and know it. You are now encompassed by a perfect life, by infinite activity, by all power, by all guidance. The power of the Spirit is supplying you with all good. It is filling your life with love. And so it is.
Today, our lesson is God's standard of perfection. I'm excited to share with you from Ernest Holmes' experience of the 1918 pandemic. This is found in Ernest Holmes' Life and Times by his brother Fenwick Holmes. Later, the work of our Metaphysical Institute went on during the great influenza epidemic in the fall of 1918, which took hundreds of lives in California. Schools, theaters, and churches were closed, and people went about the streets with white gauze masks, attempting to shut out the germ or virus and escape the contagion. Workers fell ill at their desks in the places of business, returned to their homes or to hospitals, and were seen no more. We went about our business as usual, and although we treated many people who came or telephoned for help, we did not have a single failure. We loaned Connie, the trained nurse who had been with us in the sanitarium and was a student of our institute, to a military academy where so many boys had died. After her arrival, there was only one death. Her animated figure, her face glowing with good nature, and her cheery confidence in life lifted the spirits of the boys. This is the perfect example of God's divine perfection. And so how do we attain that spiritual perfection? Father Philip Dion wrote a book, The Handbook of Spiritual Perfection. In it he said, spend time thinking about your faith. Most of the time, we don't have a true appreciation for the supernatural. Yet the difference between those who have and those who do not have a real appreciation for the supernatural is the difference between the saints and us. Isn't that interesting? The difference between the saints and us. So there are some ideas that I have written down that perhaps can help you move into that place of spiritual perfection. Because when you reach that place, of spiritual perfection, every aspect of your life is affected. Identify what you would like to change in your life and what is keeping you from making the change. That's a loaded question, isn't it? Let go and let God. Give it to God. Whatever it is you'd like to change, give that to God. It's interesting because so many times, and many people have told me, I give it to God, but nothing's happening. The reason it's not happening is because you took it back because you didn't think God was working quick enough. Actually, the truth is, once you give it to God, my friends, leave it there. Leave it there. My friend John Randolph Price had a good way of putting this as well. He said, when you pray, when you give a challenge to God, and you leave it there, he says, get busy doing something else. Take your focus off it not happening. Because when you take your focus off what's not happening, it's going to happen. But you have to take your focus off not happening. Let God deal with the details. And so we have to say we hang in there, we persevere. Like my psychologist friend at the first religious science church I ever attended, he handed out little business-sized cards with the words, persevere on them. That's all he handed out. He handed those to many, many people, and good reminder. Now, I'm going to also share with you from the Gnostic Gospels, the law, because it is a law of spiritual perfection. We can base our life on one or two options, ego-based, which is how we all begin, or spirit-based, which is how we overcome the world and enter into oneness with God. We actually are always one with God, but we don't always know that. We don't always remember it. In being ego-based, our consciousness is centered on and dependent on the ego. The ego, in turn, is centered on and dependent upon the body. When the body dies, the ego loses its sense of life. And as its energy gradually fades and disappears, so too does the consciousness which has been attached to the ego fades into nothingness. Again, this is from the Gnostic Gospels. In being spirit-based, our consciousness is centered on and dependent on the spirit within. Always the spirit within. I get in touch with the spirit within by putting my hand on my heart. You may have other ways. I do this in meditation. I do this when I'm saying a prayer. The spirit, in turn, is centered and dependent upon God. Since God is eternal and the spirit within us is the substance of God, our consciousness will remain active and functioning forever. Now, let's go back. Ego-based living, the body dies. Whatever was attached to the ego goes back to the nothingness from which it came. But when we live a spirit-based life, spiritual perfection, that remains with us forever because it's always there. We just don't remember sometimes. In order to make the shift from being ego-based to being spirit-based, these principles will help you. Each person has a light within him or her, and this light is the substance of God. I call this the divinity within. The divinity within has everything that you ever would need for this lifetime. Every single thing. Very powerful. All the power that is in God is right within that spark of divinity within you. The light or spirit within is in a general state until you wake up and recognize it. It's sleeping or hibernating. This is a result of feeding the ego and not the spirit within. Fear-based emotions feed the ego, and love-based emotions feed the spirit. I'm going to read this again. Fear-based emotions feed the ego, and love-based emotions feed the spirit. You've probably heard the acronym FEAR, false evidence appearing real. Course in Miracles tells us there are two emotions, fear and love. And so when you choose love, you're coming from a spirit-based aspect in your life. Through love, the spirit can be awakened and raised to a position of power and authority. This is important within each person. This awakening and raising process is referred to as the resurrection. One more time. Through love, the spirit can be awakened and raised to a position of power and authority within each person. This awakening and raising process is referred to as the resurrection. Each person is responsible for becoming truly loving and using the love which flows from God to awaken and raise the spirit within. Gerald Drompolsky wrote a great book called Be What You Are, Love. And we were created with love from the Creator. Each person is responsible for cleansing and purifying the thoughts and feelings within, transforming all fear-based emotions into love. So if you have an issue with someone or something, when you choose to love them instead of being angry with them, it transmutes the situation. By cleansing and purifying his or her thoughts and feelings and overcoming the ego through love, each person will enter into a higher state of consciousness referred to as the kingdom of heaven or the Christ consciousness. And this is what Jesus told us. The kingdom of heaven is within you. By following the law of spiritual perfection, each person becomes one with God and experiences his or her salvation. In this oneness with God, each person is born again. In spiritual perfection, death is overcome, and each person enters into eternal life, eternal consciousness. And that doesn't mean just because you wake up and just because you are spiritually conscious doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go to the other side of the veil. It just means that you have claimed the power and authority in your life, and your life is dependent upon God. The law of spiritual perfection is the perfection of spirit-based consciousness. The law, this is the law, has been fulfilled when 100% of our consciousness has been centered on the Spirit within, and we have become one with God. And again, I will say, it's not when we're always there. It's our recognition of being one with God. And not just our recognition of being one with God, but being one with everyone and everything. Because our ego and our spirit are both fed from emotional energy, our emotional state is of critical importance in the shift from ego-based to spirit-based. Jesus repeatedly tells us that what we are in our heart, our emotional state, as a man is in his heart, so is he. A good man brings forth good from his heart, an evil man brings forth evil. The good and evil aspects can be defined as love-based and fear-based, spirit-based and ego-based, respectively. What we believe in our mind is not really important. Who, by taking thought, can change one hair on their head? It all comes down to our emotional state. What is in our heart? When our heart is true, our thoughts are true. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The emotional transformation from ego-based to spirit-based is dependent upon resolving the emotional issues with and transforming our emotional base from fear to love. The spirit within is fed and supported only by love-based emotions. This is the power base of the spirit, the love from God that flows through our heart. Anything other than pure love in our heart is restrictive and flows the flow of God's love through us. I'm going to say that again because anything other than pure love in our heart restricts the flow of God's love through us and limits our spiritual power and our consciousness. Now imagine you have a challenge with finances, you have a challenge with relationships, you have a challenge with health, you have a challenge with divine creativity. All of that can be restricted unless and until everything you do comes from love. In order to perfect the spiritual state within, we must remove all obstructions. Sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it? We don't have to work at it. We ask God, we ask the Spirit to help us with this. All thoughts and feelings incompatible with God's love from our mind and heart. God's love is the standard. Spiritual perfection is the removal of everything that falls short of that standard. Be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is also perfect. I give you a new commandment. In these times, this is really important. This is Jesus. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. That you love one another. In these times, in election times, don't pay any attention to all of the negative ads that are coming out about the candidates. Don't do that. Focus on your own candidate. When you focus on your candidate and what they can bring to the American people, that's all you need to do. That's your only responsibility. But don't engage in negativity about candidates you don't like, because again, that's far away from the spiritual perfection, from the individual who you truly are in your mind and heart, which is a gift from God. And so ends our lesson.
This is the time of our offertory affirmation, and before we begin with our affirmation and share it together, Just a word about tithing. Think about just for a moment how important this center is to you and what it means to you. I know we may be distanced right now. We might not be physically present. But trust me, Reverend Beverly feels you in her heart, as does everyone in this center. And as we are here right now, we imagine all the seats full and filled to brimming, and even out the door that they're almost in standing room only. But what we want to know is, if the center means something to you, and this teaching, we want to keep it going. And so I know you received a letter of appeal last week. I encourage you to give from that place of knowing that what we give out comes back to us tenfold in return. If you're with me on that, let's affirm together right now. Divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, prosper, and bless. It is evidence of my conviction that God is the source and the substance of my supply. I joyously contribute to the vision of this spiritual center, knowing that it returns to me multiplied abundantly, and so it is.
Now please join me for our offertory song, I Am So Blessed. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so thankful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so thankful, I am so blessed. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so thankful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so thankful, I am so blessed.
Good morning, and it's time for the Sunday Funny. This morning we have the home COVID test. 1. Pour a large glass of red wine and try to smell it. 2. If you can smell it, then drink it and see if you can taste it. 3. If you can smell it and you can taste it, it confirms that you do not have COVID. Last night I tried that 19 times, and the tests all came out negative. Thank God. I'm going to try it again this evening, because this morning I woke up with a headache, and I feel like I'm coming down with something. Probably.
Now the benediction. Please make these words your words. Something wonderful is happening through you right now. It's happening through your mind, your body, and every aspect of your life. You think it, you know it, you believe it, and you accept it. You are never alone, for God is right where you are, and so it is.